One of the things that we must acknowledge is that really the only reason we're here tonight is in part because of the generosity of the City Council for budgeting for an Arts, Culture, and Library Commission, and then for that commission to make such a good recommendation to put some of the money toward this exhibit. So if you would, please give them a round of applause, because without them, we would not be able to do this. So thank you. So tonight we're kicking off with a screening of a short film that was created for the exhibit titled Community Voices. This film explores changes that have shaped San Leandro since the year 2000. And afterward, we'll dive into a panel discussion with some of the film's cast members, who you see up here tonight. And they'll dive into a little bit with their experiences. And then before we get started, I'd first like to introduce myself. So I'm Brian Simmons, I'm the library director. And if you're not aware, the museum falls under the Library Services Department umbrella. So I'm really honored and happy to not only be the library director, but honored to just be able to be the one that oversees a department that has this beautiful little facility in its portfolio. And the big things we can do with such a small but mighty space is really pretty cool. So I'd also then like to take an opportunity to introduce our panelists. So first we have Surlene Grant. So many of you know, if not all of you know who Surlene is. So Surlene made her way from Oakland to San Leandro in 1993, and her dedication both to professional achievement and community activism led her to becoming the first African American and person of color elected to San Leandro City Council in 1998. She later served 2 terms as vice mayor. So thank you, Surlene, for everything you've done for our community. Next, sitting right next to Surlene is Tom Liao. Some of you may know Tom because Tom has been a true veteran working for the city of San Leandro. Tom was appointed Community Development Director for the city of San Leandro in 2018. And with 23 years of experience, he has held various leadership roles, including housing manager, planning division manager. His exceptional dedication to public service earned him recognition as an incredibly dedicated public servant from former city manager Jeff Kay. So thank you, Tom, for everything you do for the city. And then Derek Lee is also here this evening. So Derek, you might be familiar with Derek as one of the founders of Pilot City, an innovative organization focused on prototyping the city of the future right here in San Leandro. His work bridges government, education, industry, community, all to nurture local entrepreneurs, and especially our young students. He works hand in hand with students here in the community, and to shape our future as a city. So thank you, Derek, for everything you do. And then the last person who wasn't able to be here tonight, who you do see in the film, or in the film you'll see in a moment, is Deb Acosta, right? Yes, Deb Acosta. So she wasn't able to be here tonight, but did want to give recognition to her as well. Without her, we wouldn't have been able to pull this film off either. So all 4 of them you'll see in the film, and I think you'll be pretty pleased about it. And then also, I'd like to thank Dylainie, if you want to stand up real quick. So Dylainie is she won't be joining our panel today, but she very much could just conduct this instead of me. But she is our museum curator. She has done a phenomenal job since the time she's been here. She only is here part-time, and she's pulled off so many things that we've needed here at the museum. If you could see what that back storage area used to look like and what it looks like now, it looks like a professional museum storage area now. Not only that, she put the exhibit together. So she's done some amazing things in her time here. So thank you, Dylainie. And then before we continue with the film, we do have to acknowledge those who made the film. So Hover Pictures, who's here from Hover? I've met someone here. Both of you guys. Thank you both. It turned out really well. These folks are super talented in what they do. They directed and produced the film in collaboration with Dylainie. They've done an exceptional job bringing this story and this powerful narrative to the screen. So Ethan and Stephen, I know you raised your hand already, but if you wouldn't mind, please standing so you could get a round of applause because you did a great job. Thank you. So we're thrilled to have you here tonight, and we look forward to a dynamic conversation with our distinguished guests. And if you're interested in asking a question, we do have some question cards, and there's no guarantee we'll get to all the questions with the time and everything, but if you have them, hand them to Dylainie. She's going to sift through them. She'll give me a few. If we have time, we'll ask them. And she'll also sift through maybe some duplicates and things. And we'll see what we can get to by the end of the program. So now that we've seen the film, we'll have a little Q&A with some of the folks here. So first question's for Surlene. So Surlene, as Vice Mayor, seeing as you've held that title more than once, you led several significant affordable housing initiatives. Could you share the outcomes of those projects and their impact on the community? Oh, and Dylainie, where's the other mic?
Oh, sorry. Oh, I have an outside voice. See, I didn't even say that loud. They heard me. Hi. Okay, yes, okay. So, when I came to San Leandro, there's so many ways I could start this housing story. The first house I looked at, a townhouse that I looked at that I liked, and I put an offer on, I didn't get. And this is pre-internet, so when you got the newspaper, you could see how much a house sold for. And I saw that the house sold for less than my offer. And I said to my realtor, oh, well, that's not right. We should make a fuss over that. We should go report that to somebody. He said, oh, you probably wouldn't want to live there anyway. And he's probably right, because where I wound up living is how I'm sitting here in this chair. So I found another place to make an offer on. Why that's important is because San Leandro was so historically closed and so historically redlined, as that exhibit place talks about. So we didn't even have like public housing or affordable housing in San Leandro. Our only subsidized housing project, the city forefathers had put outside of the city limits of San Leandro. So when I came on board, I got involved with housing through the Alameda County Housing Authority. And I sat there, and those are the people who do public housing, Section 8 housing, all like that, find your affordable housing. I started getting facts and figures. Shortly after I got appointed, Tom here came aboard. We've worked on many things together. I whispered earlier, he's my partner in crime. Over time, we had what was called redevelopment then. Jerry Brown got rid of it, but we had redevelopment. And redevelopment allocated a certain number, percentage, 15%, I think was the number to go towards a project to help write down the cost, reduce the cost. And so we had these housing developers who wanted to come into San Leandro because we were ripe for it. We were just at that point where some industry was changing. Like we had a brown paper box company. We had the pencil factory. We don't have those things anymore because industry was changing. And so some of the land was changing. And so housing developers wanted to do something. They wanted to get in here. And they were coming fast and furious. Signature, Pulte, TrueMark. And so we had housing. TrueMark was over behind Pack and Save. We had developers building both on the north side and west side of Davis Street. We had the housing now that's brand new. I forget who's doing it, but but there's some older brand new homes there. Like they're about 15, 20, maybe 20 years old homes there. So everybody was trying to find a piece of San Leandro's rock. And so we had the discussion about making it inclusionary, making it affordable, and so we created a policy that not only housing that was financed with redevelopment dollars needed to have 15% of affordability to it. So if you had 4 units, 6 units, one of them had to be affordable. Yeah. So if you had 6 units, one had to be affordable. If you had 100 units, 15 of them had to be affordable. And that meant that they sold at a cost below market rate. And developers would push back and say that can't happen. The other thing we also made was that they couldn't be inferior. So you couldn't have a house made out of diamonds and one made out of coal and make the coal one the affordable one. They all had to look and match and be of the same quality of standard. Now you could have marble or countertops in one and wood in the other, but you couldn't tell that was the affordable unit. So that was probably one of my major initiatives and my most notable work. And I will share this too, that when we were going to vote, it took about 2 years. We had to take tours, we had to do site tours of what affordable housing looked like, because people were like, we don't want those people, because they thought those people would be poor, minority, black, brown people. So we don't want they didn't think about teachers or whatever. So we had to take tours around the Bay Area to show what affordable housing looked like. We had to do a lot of things to educate people. And I worked with activists, and I worked with the Housing Building Association. I worked with the chamber, and I worked with others to just try to make everybody understand what was happening. So it took us about 2 years to get to a point to vote, and on the night that we were going to vote for it, the item was pulled by the mayor. And that was like major political maneuvering. And I was like, what just happened? And I'm pretty sophisticated and pretty savvy, and that one got me. So we had to work on it. They had some issues. We had to work on it for about another year, and then we came back and we were able to vote it through.
Unbelievable. That's amazing. Thank you. And this is really good segue because, so Tom, and you're going to have to help me with the designation, but San Leandro fairly recently got a designation regarding housing from the state, correct?
So the city, we passed our housing chapter of the general plan called the Housing Element, and we're one of the first cities in the Bay Area to do that. They raised some of the requirements, and we were one of the first, but we also worked towards what's called a pro-housing designation. So again, one of the first in the state, and we ended up having one of the top 5 scores. And so what pro-housing means, it means that both we're seeking progress. We want to build more housing. We are friendly to building more housing, all income levels, which we need. The other thing that's great about pro-housing, it's also protecting those who live here, so providing more equity. So it's almost a certification from the state, and right now there's very few cities, I think maybe 50 cities that have gotten it, and we were one of the first.
That's amazing.
And we just got, I think, over $1 million for having that designation that we can apply towards housing. So.
Wow. And you said we got one of the top 5 scores?
Yeah, after
That's
when they
amazing.
lined up the scores, they take into account all that we've developed, all of our programs that we have, and they score you versus their criteria, and we ended up being one of the top.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So I've got a kind of a follow-up question to that. That was kind of the setup, but so Surlene's kind of helped walk us through how we've gotten there developmentally in terms of housing, and the designation now kind of where we're at. You mentioned the East 14th corridor in the film. Tell us a little bit about what are some recent developments on East 14th corridor, and also maybe other developments that might be going on, if there's something at Gate 510 or Bayfair Mall or anything else that you can think of, kind of where are we going?
Sure. So I'm a planner, city planner by training and background. So a lot of what I think about is spatially, but I'm also very focused on social issues. But at the same time, I think one thing since I've been here and working with this wonderful council and city and community is embracing the change and growth. And part of planning is responsible growth. That's what planners do, and the goal is to get the community vision and have meetings. So East 14th is critical, and so everybody knows the two growth areas over the next 15, 20 years for San Leandro is downtown, and downtown includes East 14th, but also extends all the way to the BART station. And then the other area is Bayfair, the southern end of East 14th. What makes us very distinctive is we have 2 BART stations in the city compared to other cities. Not many cities have that within their jurisdiction. So we are growing as the state wants us to grow. We are growing responsibly around transit, what they call transit-oriented development. And as I mentioned in the film, I think I made a comment that there's money. And I think the better context is to say there's public money to make that happen, to grow responsibly and sort of more sustainably for the future. So I would say downtown's the big area. You've seen some changes. A couple of big projects would be by the BART station. So we have a tech campus, San Leandro Tech Campus. There's 2 high-rise buildings up there, 6 stories, both filled now. That was our first higher density commercial building that we built under the downtown plan from 2007. Then across the street, you've seen 200 units of housing. That's 2 buildings. It's 100% affordable. 115 units, the front, the Spanish Mission style building is for families and households, 100% affordable. Behind that is 85 units of affordable senior housing, the first high density housing development under the downtown plan from 2007. So as I like to tell my staff, it's first that we as a city have committed to. Council members like Surlene and current members like I know Councilmember Azevedo is here. Look at these as firsts, high density housing, commercial. The one that's going up right now that you're seeing downtown, right at Callan, East 14th, Central Callan, that's almost 200 units. The ground floor is going to have a Sprouts Market and some retail and other commercial. That is going to be our first true high-density downtown-centered project. So we're super excited about that. So that's going to bring more people here, hopefully make it more of a 24/7 kind of environment downtown. So again, so downtown's the major growth area. The second big growth area of the next 20 years is Bayfair TOD. And that, as you see, the malls around the country have been fading and dying and such. And so we have a brand new ownership group out there. There's a handful of owners there, thinking very much in the future, thinking about innovation, also thinking about housing because we need that. So I think that's going to be a great blank canvas for the future. And there's stuff already happening there as well. So
great, thank you.
Can I add a point?
Yeah, please.
So as I was talking about the different kinds of housing we want to bring in, and as Tom was talking about the different kind of housing, the diversity of housing is what contributes to the diversity of community. I just want to say that.
Well put. Very well put. So the next question is for Derek. So these folks have gotten us kind of where we've been, where we are, and since you work with the youth, I'm going to kind of focus on where we're going a little bit, but through your lens. So tell us a little bit about Pilot City and how you came up with the idea and its role in shaping San Leandro's future right now.
Well, first of all, I want to share that when I was, I think I just graduated from architecture at Cal Poly, and I called the city because I wanted to contribute, and this guy picks up.
I remember that.
And I was like, I just pitched, and I was like, hey, can I get an internship at the planning department? And he was like, I don't get any positions available, but keep trying, keep trying. So anyways, he was actually my first experience trying to contribute to the city in some shape or form. And then one time I was working at an architecture firm, and then I saw this Spur event. You ever heard of Spur? Are they still around?
Yeah, they are.
Great. And
What is it for those of us who don't know?
You probably know the acronym. San Francisco Planning, Urban, Regional, right?
Yeah, I think they got rid of the.
Yes.
the
So
acronym.
they had a event at San Jose State called the Future of Real Estate and Technology, and I wanted to transition my architecture career, because I didn't really like architecture as a career, into technology, right? And so I was like, I'm excited to go to this event. I asked my boss, can I go? Can I take I'll report back. And then I got so excited that night that I slept at 3 a.m. I don't know why I get excited about a real estate like technology event. So I woke up late to the event, and I just went there and got there, and I realized I forgot my glasses, right? So I had to sit up front, right? So I grabbed some yogurt, some orange juice, whatever, sat up front. And then I met Leanne Marshall, the deputy city manager for San Leandro. And I was like, hey, who are you, you know? And he said, I'm the deputy city manager, and we're here because we just installed fiber optic broadband in the city. And we are going to transform ourselves into a city of innovation. And I was like, I'm from San Leandro. You're saying my hometown is going to transform itself into a city of innovation? So that's when my spinal cord just started kind of, the juices started going up to my head, and I just got completely motivated. And so I met this guy here, there at that event. I met the newly hired chief innovation officer who was there. I met a variety of other people there, and I just started latching on to the chief innovation officer who's not here. And that's when we started kind of building the city of the future. Also, fun story, I had a breakfast meeting with Stephen Cassidy, and then I stood him up because I slept in. So a lot of fun stories like that.
So this is a theme with you.
Yeah, exactly. I do need 9 hours of sleep every day. And so that's how we started. And so the whole concept of what my motivations came into was, how do I build my hometown into a city of innovation? And so the question was like, how do you build a city or a town to become innovative and create a center for innovation? And I realized, where can we find a lot of people to do innovative things, basically, was the question, right? I said, well, I guess young people, like college students, something like that, right? I was like, wait, hold on, San Leandro doesn't have any college students. Like, where can we find an army of innovators, right? I was like, well, I guess we have San Leandro High School, there's 2,700 kids there, trapped every day, 8:30 to 3:30. Let's have them innovate. And so that's when we started building this future of like, okay, let's start creating perhaps a workforce engine that serves as an economic development engine by starting with what every city, every town in the United States has, which is a K-12 system. And then connect them to an industry so they can actually be in the real world and do real things and make real things happen that are interesting and innovative to make their own places interesting and innovative and be entrepreneurial. So that's the concept of it all. And I'm still on that mission, and we're starting to actually work with cities and K-12s and across California. And I want to keep doing it here, though, and so that's what I'm going to start to do more and more. And that's the whole concept of it all. So I just wanted to, elaborate on that and share that.
Awesome.
Hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, very much. And I got a follow-up question. So what are some key projects or outcomes that you're particularly proud of at Pilot City?
Yeah, this question that the city wanting to transform itself into a city of innovation just poses a lot of interesting questions. And the questions I've been asking myself is, how do you truly create a framework for how a city innovates with its own community members or even external community members? And I'm pretty convinced that we need to have the typical infrastructures of a city, such as K-12, such as city government, and all the departments within city government, from community development to libraries, to public works, to police, and then the Chamber of Commerce as well, because every city, every town has a chamber, and then the local retailers, the local manufacturers, the local technology companies, and all the industry sectors kind of spawning from those systems to build public-private partnerships that can create cross-sector outcomes such as workforce development or varieties of economic development and entrepreneurialism and so forth. So I think what we're most proud of is just placing over 800 kids in internships as an engine for getting young people who aren't usually hireable as an intern to become that. And then also starting to design frameworks for how we can actually do this. And Pilot City is the company name, but Pilot City is my hometown, San Leandro. And so the goal is to have this community be the one that cracks this code of how we can create a sustainable engine for economic development, and then have that us be the use case to go to other places to do the same. So I think that's the goal of what I would be proud of in the future, is having other cities copy San Leandro, because we have sustainable frameworks for how we create innovation engines.
Awesome, thank you. So I'm going to pose another question. This one's to the whole group, and I'll hopefully give each of you a chance to answer it, because I think there's multiple options here depending on each of your perspectives. So over the last 20 years, San Leandro has undergone significant changes. Heck, even in the last 3 years I've been here, it feels like we've undergone a lot of change. What do you see as the most important areas for collaboration moving forward to ensure the city continues to grow in a positive direction? Surlene, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I'll go historical because I think that's my values. One of the things I did when I first got involved with the cities, we did this thing called study circles, and they were dialogues in different communities, and we worked with the homeowners associations. And through that process, people decided what they wanted to talk about or work on. And I thought it was going to be about, race and diversity and issues that were showing up as our neighborhoods were changing. But really what showed up is the kinds of things people campaign on all the time: public safety, crime, and education. So I think there's a foundational set of items and issues that transcend generation after generation after generation. So my generation of education was just trying to make sure kids were treated fairly in the schools. Derek's generation of education is like making sure everybody is plugged in. And I think that's where we're going. But this digital divide still exists. There are still communities of folks, there are still individuals, be it income or age, that keep people from being plugged in. And I think that's going to be what we have to work with in this new pilot city era.
Nice, good answer. Tom, what do you think are your answers for that question?
I have two sort of categories of collaboration, but one I would just very similarly say, in California, it's housing. So California is going through a housing crisis, and particularly with affordable, but our state has not produced sufficient new housing in 30 to 40 years, and a lot of the problems you're seeing is due to the fact that California cities and counties have really not been doing their job in that capacity. So I think it's really important to have this public-private partnership going forward, in an era of dwindling public resources. So I kind of came of age in the 80s in college, and that's when the federal government slashed the domestic budget by like half. So coming into the workforce already, you're already like a few steps behind. We are constantly challenged in many ways on the public side. I know a lot of former public officials here, people in the nonprofit community. I think we really need to embrace that public-private side. That it's been there before, but we need to be even more creative and find ways to work together to get through this housing crisis. Because in this city, we need housing for all income levels: lower income, middle income, even market rate. So that's one thing, we need it all. The other area where I think that public-private collaboration, as Derek and Surlene talked about, is innovation and jobs. Because the private sector does really produce a lot of those well-paying jobs, and we want to uplift everybody. We want to bring high value-added jobs that can benefit everybody at all income levels and all backgrounds. So I think that's critical. The other part, I think, what I call the soul of the city, is a partnership between the city and the community. And I'm already seeing that happen, because it's really our kind of bloodline and what makes us distinctive. And I think with arts and culture rising in the city, is really vital that the community groups, I see SL 2050, I see the Big Tent, I see others forming around even social issues as well, just as important. So I think that critical bond, the cities can, it's really important. We don't have a lot of money, staffing sometimes is an issue. We need to have partnerships in that community as well. So,
thank you.
Yeah, I think we're hitting some of the right points here with the public-private partnership stuff. I think what comes to my mind truly is that I think as a systems scenario, like we have verticals of, let's say, housing or government and business and all this stuff. And I think having cross-pollination between some of these as a horizontal would be really nice. Yeah, I think this is where the innovation efforts was really helpful to have like an actual individual within the city government, for example, looking at what outcome we want and then talking between these different institutions to be able to kind of cross-pollinate outcomes, such as entrepreneurship, for example, innovation of places, for example, and innovation of programs, for example. I think that's another key word that I think is important is the word programs. We have all kinds of programs, right? And so how can we create programs between different community members and different types of communities within the community, like between the library and the city and, you know, the community, for example, or entrepreneurs, like in real estate developers, like B3 investors with Bayfair, you know, with people in the city with economic development. How do we create cross-sector programs to get kind of these cross-sector outcomes that are kind of gnarly to get? So I would say that those are some areas of work that we should move towards. And I really think that the main thing that we really can, if we can try to figure out how we can get more entrepreneurs to be fostered here, and to be created here, and tap into people who are already naturally entrepreneurial and want to start businesses and want to like be able to fail and kind of get back up and keep doing it. I think that that's probably what we should do, because that then creates all these other, you know, effects, right? Like jobs and so forth. But also being on the forefront of making new things happen and being known for it, and then creating new branding and marketing systems for the city because we're well known for something, right? Like how do we truly put San Leandro on the map in a way that really can get people to want to be here, right, in the first place? And more importantly, people who are already here, how can they actually thrive here and do what they dream to do here, right, as well? So kind of riffing a little bit, but those are some of my concepts.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. And if Dylainie and I communicated silently correctly, there were no cards. Okay, so great. So if you do have questions, the folks of the panel will be sticking around a little bit. You can talk to them after the program. But before we conclude, I do want to ask our panelists one more thing for a final thought or takeaway, and that is, what's the most important thing for our audience to remember from today's discussion? Any of you can start. We don't always have to start with Surlene.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was trying to be differential too.
I actually have a statement to make. My hand was raised earlier, but no one's paying attention. I noticed in addition to San Francisco, Oakland, and Berkeley, El Cerrito, Hayward, and Fremont also have 2 BART stations in addition to San Leandro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Hayward, Oakland, Berkeley, and San Francisco, multiple BART stations. I was reflecting on that, what you said in the lecture.
Oh yeah. No, thank you. And we're not the only ones. I was saying we're one of several that
Okay,
actually
I
have
get
that.
it now.
No,
Sorry,
but
my
no,
fault's having issues.
no, thank you.
But yeah, if you, Tom, do you have what's the most important thing for our audience to remember from today's discussion?
I think I'm saying things in 2, so I've got a couple of. One is to say, in some ways, as we're talking about forward-looking at the future, even though this is a wonderful city, but best is yet to come. There's always room to grow, and I feel like, you know, our community is so diverse. It's changing. It's growing. I think with what my colleagues have talked about and how hopefully we've laid out the city to meet the needs of the future. So in many ways, the best is yet to come. And the second thing I would say is we are sort of epitomizing diversity in action, because in some ways we just say we're diverse, but a lot of cities are very diverse. But how do you make something happen with that? And I think if you can put that diversity into action, where things are happening around and you're building around that. So I'll give you one example. This afternoon, many of us went to a grand opening for the Asian Health Center down the street on East 14th. And when I say diversity in action, it's great just to, oh, we're diverse, but what that meant was, because we have a growing Asian population, for example, it has become sort of the majority population. It's about 35% now of our community. But without that kind of demographic and that presence, we would not have brought in Asian Health Services, which is one of the preeminent public health clinics in the Bay Area. And this is their second location that they decided to locate. So for us to have that facility, and it's actually open to all lower income households as well, I think is a big coup for the city, but it shows what the changing nature of the city and the type of positive things that it can bring forward. So.
Thank you. Darlene, you still don't have to go. We can give it to Derek. We can let you close.
I'm gonna be the closer.
Yeah.
I never liked the 1, 2, 3 thing.
Yeah.
It's like, we should.
I'm a rule follower.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I think about, I guess the conversation we're having, I think about the conversation I just had before this conversation, which was with people that I've gotten to know in the community, whether it be with Steven or Nancy or Rada or Tim or Mitch or, and I get to talk to Ethan and talk to Tom and, it's like, just like everyone here, which is really, Louis and, just everyone like kind of, Bernard, like just people that are in these, it's, I think the social cohesion, if we can build on our social cohesion and find reasons to work on things together and rally around maybe more circles of things, I think that, and see ourselves as everyone has some level of a function or productive outcome that we can build towards, because our communities are all composites of, students and teachers and school administrators and, business owners and real estate people and manufacturers and parents and moms and dads and aunties and uncles and, and so we can start to, see what that means for us and maybe work towards something that, I'd really love to hear from all of you. Like, if we can all, like, talk about something that you all really care about, I think now we're talking. Now we can have a conversation and really kind of find out what is the things we want to rally around. And maybe those are the strategic goals of the council. Maybe that's the fiscal annual planning that occurs. Maybe it's some other thing we need to do to get that out of the community and then work on it together. But I'm just kind of dancing around what I think we have to do. I think we have to figure out the forums in which we would discuss that. Maybe, I don't know, we have like some crazy 3-day hackathon with community members where we put a prompt down, everyone's thinking of a solution and throwing it out there, and then we're all collecting crowdsourced ideas at the library, and we just have a big post-it wall of ideas that people are always coming and posting things. Just doing something wild that's exciting. Like, I was just thinking, I was gonna actually pitch to Bayfair, hey, what if we made Bayfair into an escape room? Like one huge, massive escape room, right? Where you can come in through one end and then you build a tunnel through Bayfair.
So an IKEA.
Yeah, I guess so. That'd be fun, right? Because then you create virality, right? You get people who are like, oh, I'm gonna go to that Bayfair escape room. And then people get to tour Bayfair, and then now you do economic development because now people are seeing what they can do in Bayfair, right? So we can propose crazy, stupid, wild ideas that might actually get some traction and get some excitement in the culture, and then we start having people think, and then we start trying to figure out how to fund it or something. I think that's a direction.
I like the hackathon idea at the library, my friend. We're gonna have to talk later.
That's why you are the creative, innovative one. All right, let's see if I can be the closer here. All right. So this event this evening, the video is called Community Voices, and so I think that if there was something to take away, is to be involved with your voice in your community, in this community. So be involved. So historically, when I got involved, I kept getting pushback on, we always have done it this way. This is how we're gonna do it. We've always done it this way. And I got pushback on, how long have you been here? How long have you lived here? As if I couldn't be a good San Leandro resident if I'd only been here a year or 2 years. I had to have been here 50 years or more or something. I don't know what the magic number was, but I didn't have the magic number. So if we have our voices being heard and we decide to work beyond the way we've always done something and pack on to Derek's ideas of escape rooms and everything else he's coming up with. And if we recognize our neighbors for who they are and what they bring and the diversity they bring, and the fact that with 35% Asian, we do need an Asian Health Service Center, and probably some other needs for other people in our community. So let's not always do it the way we've done it before. And then let's work together better, isn't that what it is? Better together, to make San Leandro the town. I used to say, I haven't said it in a while, I would still say it. The reason I was so involved in San Leandro is because I wanted it to be the city I wanted to live in, not the city I had to live in, right? I want to live here. So let's make it better together, the place we want to live. Is that a mic drop?
Yeah, it is. I think that's a wonderful way to close it out. Thank you. So thank you to all our panelists this evening. Your insights have been valuable at the very least and wonderful, truly. It's so good to have you here. So good to hear from you, not just in a video, but in person. And I think everything every one of you said today has been spot on. As a someone who's worked here now for 3.5 years, all of that is true. And I look out at you guys, I look across the community. We have such a wonderful community and such wonderful assets with the people who are here, with the things that we have. We sit in a really interesting and rarefied space because we're small enough to be nimble as a city that's not that big, but we sit in a place in the Bay Area where we're in a really good spot, like geographically. So there's a lot we can do, a lot we've already done, but I see a lot of good things in the future for San Leandro. If we all, to Surlene's point, we work together, we're going to be better together. So thank you very much for everything this evening. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for your time and attention. And with that, if you could join me in a final round of applause for our guests. Thank you.